Hey, this is Tom. This is Tom's Radio Room Show, and that howling you're hearing is my shortwave radio on 5 megahertz WWV. And yesterday I was looking for a manual, and I ran across this thing here, the Nifty Try it again. Nifty Quick Reference Guide. I did a review of this. They make a bunch of guides. This one is about radio monitoring. I did a review of this and I really like it, although they are a little expensive. And they're laminated and they're spiral bound, so they're really handy. That's what's nice about it. And I was looking at it again. I'm like, there's a whole bunch of frequencies that I haven't listened to in quite a while. Shortwave right now is spotty. It comes and goes, not there too often. So I came down to my workshop and set up radios. I initially was going to listen to the railroad frequencies, which is shown on the back of this. Let me zoom in. So here's the North American Railroad frequencies, and I was going to listen to this. And what I was going to do, let me back out here. What I was going to do is I was going to set up my scanner radio, which is controlled by a laptop. And while that was booting up, because it's a real old laptop and it takes a while for it to boot up, I turned on my shortwave radio to see if WWV was coming in clear, because I noticed this morning that the solar flux index is in the 90s. So while I was turning on the shortwave radio, I noticed that apparently the laptop was causing the noise you heard, that interference whine. So I said, okay, no problem. I'm more interested in shortwave, so I'm going to turn off the laptop and the scanner radio and just go for shortwave and see how it's doing. Well, when I went to turn off the laptop, it goes into this update mode. It's doing an update. Now, this is what's weird, is Microsoft says they're not supporting Windows XP, which is what's running on that old computer, and yet there's still updates. So it's been doing that update now for 20 minutes, and while it's doing that update, I can't run the scanner because I've got the scanner set up so that it's controlled by the laptop. Can't use the scanner, and my shortwave radio, which is right next to that laptop, has got that terrible whine. So I'm in a dilemma right now. So I thought, what the heck, I'll revisit this guide while I'm waiting for those things to work themselves out, shall we say. So anyway, again, this is a revisit because I've already done a review of this. And my conclusion, as I said a few minutes ago, that these guides, especially this one, Radio Monitoring Guide, are pretty good guides. They're just a little expensive. This is, I believe, 1995, and it's 16 pages, but it's lists all different frequencies that you can get on your shortwave radio and your scanner radio. And it starts off by talking about, it has a table, it talks about it, and has this table about international shortwave broadcast bands. That's something I never can remember what the ranges are. So for instance, the one I like the most is 31 meters, which is 9.4 to 9.9 megahertz. I never can remember that. So that's a nice little table. And it even has some references to some shortwave listings. Does it have? It has Primetime Shortwave, that website, but it doesn't have the one I use. That's interesting. And it has a small table of international broadcast stations, where they're located, the time they're normally on, and the frequencies on. Nice little table, one page, and it's kind of a, one of those deals. It's a starter if you're getting into shortwave radio, or if you're like me, that you can't remember things. It'll refresh your memory. For instance, I listen to China radio, and if I come down here to China radio, it gives the frequencies of 6.020, 9.570, which is where I usually listen to it, and 9.580. So there it is, right there, quick guide. I got it. Australia is another one I listen to. It's listed here, gives you the frequencies. Although it doesn't have the frequency. Oh yeah, here, it's got two listings. So it's got the frequency I normally listen to is 9.580. So, granted, you can get all this information off the internet, but here it is in one concise little reference, and it's laminated, and it's spiral bound. I like spiral bound books because you can lay them flat and they can fold this over like this. Doesn't take up much room. Pretty cool. Here was some military and civilian aircraft frequencies, frequencies used at various air shows by the various demonstration teams, and HF radio telephone frequencies, different than the ones that I were trying to hear, which was on the VHF band. Here are some frequencies on the HF bands. Don't know if they're used much. Again, it's something I could try today, see how conditions are doing. Here is a listing of marine nets where they get on there and exchange information. This is all in all on the HF band once again. There's some beacon frequencies throughout the world. Another way you can tell if the bands are open, and so on and so on. So I really recommend this guide, even though it's kind of expensive, but it brings all the information you need about shortwave and scanner VHF, UHF listing into one concise spot. And like I say, to me, when I got it out this morning or yesterday, it kind of re-inspired me to go look on other bands for activity, since the HF band is kind of sparse right now. So anyway, I just thought I'd revisit that while I'm waiting for, it's still sitting there. It's doing one update. It's Windows XP doing one update, and it's now almost half an hour doing that one update. I noticed when I turned the computer I'm using right now to do this video on this morning, it had done an update, which means, and it's running Windows 7, which means most likely the drivers for my SD dongle receivers have been overwritten with Windows drivers, and now it won't work as a wideband receiver until I manually reinstall the drivers to make it become an SDR. Another little nuisance. I really need to go into all my computers and turn off updates. Most of the updates that you get nowadays are for security updates, and it also goes in there, like Windows 7 goes in there and says, oh, this driver you got is not our driver, I'm going to wipe it out. So you end up having that drove me nuts when first time that happened. I couldn't figure out what's wrong with my SDR. Turns out the driver was overwritten. Okay, so I'm just going to have to stand by. I don't know how long, maybe another half an hour before that update finishes. And you don't want to turn off your computer in the middle of an update. I accidentally did that one time and it trashed the computer. So I just got to let it run When it gets done, it'll stop interfering with hopefully, with my shortwave radio. So anyway, that's the show for today. My point is, if you can't get things on HF, there's plenty of other things that you can listen to, especially if you have a scanner radio, and you don't have to have a spectacular scanner radio. So let's just look here for a second what we could listen to, or try to listen to. As I mentioned before, we can listen to radio frequencies. They're about 160 megahertz to 162 megahertz, thereabouts. This is all HF stuff. This is a nice little guide. This is Amateur Radio Nets. This is where amateur radio operators get on the air at a certain time, a certain frequency, and talk about a certain subject. For instance, let me just see if I can find one that's kind of interesting. There's a number of nets for old fogies like me. Okay. There's also a national hurricane net. That'll start getting active here, hopefully not too soon, but it will happen. There used to be, and I can't see one right now on this listing, there used to be a couple of nets for buy and selling amateur radio equipment. I don't see any of those listed. Maybe they're still there, and maybe they're not. But that's all HF, which that's what I'm trying to find out, if HF bands are open this morning. It's 6:50 in the morning. I started this exercise of trying to get my radios up and running about 6 o'clock, and time is ticking away. The sun's already up, so conditions are diminishing on HF if they were good at all. So anyway, that's the show. If you enjoyed the show, please give me a thumbs up. Where'd my thumb go? I never can find my thumb. There it is. Thumbs up. Bye-bye.